Vera, there she goes. Anybody that is not a guest for this event, if you could mute yourselves and turn your cameras off, that would be great. We've started recording and I'm going to hit our stream button. We've got a little bit of a lag, so if there's a pause, just hold tight and I will start us off once we are streaming onto Facebook. So welcome everybody, and we'll get ready to go.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the All of Us Online Cafe. I'm Kelsey Mahaffey, All of Us Project Director for 50 Forward, located in Nashville, Tennessee. And November is National Caregivers Month. So we thought this theme appropriate for today's topic, caring for community, how researchers and community members work together against COVID-19. With me today is Dr. Spyros Kalams, Director of Viral Immunology and Principal Investigator for the Vanderbilt HIV Vaccine Trials Unit, where he and his team are a part of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine trial. Also with me today are Vernon Privat and Mary Jo McKelvey, 50 Forward All of Us peer ambassadors and participants in the Moderna vaccine trial. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Today's program is brought to you by 50 Forward, which is a national community engagement partner for the All of Us research program. All of Us is a new initiative from the National Institutes of Health that seeks to advance precision medicine. The program is looking for 1 million people living in the United States to volunteer and share their health data to hopefully help researchers find better treatments and cures for all of us. Over 425,000 have enrolled so far, and you can learn more by visiting our website at joinallofus.org/50forward. Now let's get to our conversation, caring for community. Dr. Kalams, let's start with you. Would you remind our viewers how the Vanderbilt HIV Vaccine Trials Unit became involved in the Moderna trial for the COVID-19 vaccine?
Well, thanks for having me. At the time, it came about relatively suddenly as far as I was concerned. I'm sure there was some planning going on, but at the very earliest stages of the epidemic, Moderna, which is a very small company, they only have one product, this is it. We're trying to roll out a vaccine and they needed testing sites. And there is an enormous infrastructure across the United States for testing potential HIV vaccines, because we still don't have an HIV vaccine, but we have the laboratory, the clinical trial space, and all current HIV vaccine testing units were kind of told that you are now part of the coronavirus prevention network. So it's not exclusively HIV testing. So, there are some sites test influenza vaccine formulations as well. But it was just a united network to just take advantage of our existing infrastructure and apply it toward, we didn't have to build anything from scratch. We already had the personnel, and I said, well, you're going to be testing this big phase 3 vaccine and enrolling to this phase 3 trial. So that's how it happened. That's the bit of the history. But one day I was not at site, and the next day I was, and that's really how it turned out.
Yeah, overnight. I love that. So now kind of reflecting back, here we are, it's 1 year later. So how has this experience been for your team?
I think for the team and just across the country, it's been incredibly rewarding. So every Monday, we still have an all sites meeting where all investigators get an update on everything COVID, what vaccines are in the pipeline, where are we with the approval process. We hear the latest data, and that call still has about 450 to 500 people on it and that's mostly the investigators from the sites across the country. So that's every morning call, and so we're just very proud of the progress we made. I mean, we did, Pfizer had their own testing. They have they're the big gorilla. They had their own set of, testing sites and infrastructure, but we had all of these individual sites contributing to this Moderna trial, which was just as big and just as important to get it out. So we're incredibly happy at the success and the quality of the data and what's come out of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So last time you were here, you talked a bit about how long vaccine trials normally take. Is the Moderna trial still ongoing, even though the vaccine has been made public?
It is. It was a 2-year trial, and we're halfway through. And we've already, of course, we know the immunogenicity data. We know that it's efficacious at 90% mark. And the original trial was meant to look at not just whether you made an immune response or whether you were protected from infection. When the trial was originally proposed, no one had any idea how much infection we would have in the community. We realized how effective the vaccine was precisely because there were so many infections going on, right? If there were more infections, you're better able to tell whether your vaccine works or not. That's just a math thing. So we accumulated our data points far earlier than we thought. But we still had 2 years to follow safety, and we're still following people for safety and how long their immunity is lasting. And now we are in the booster phase. That was an amendment to our trial that now we've boosted everybody. And so we're going to show how that third shot helps their immune systems. And I can go into a lot of depth about the trial itself, but because early on, when we started, half of the people got the vaccine, half got placebo. And then we waited several months. And then when we found out that the vaccine works, all the people that got placebo got the vaccine. So now everyone's been vaccinated, right? But there's a different time between the early vaccinated people and the later vaccinated people. And now everybody's getting boosted at the same time. So we're going to be able to tell how that third shot changes your immune system and how that boost works, depending on how long your body has taken since it's seen the second shot, if that makes it clear. So there's a lot of science that we're still trying to unpack and understand. And the only way to do it is through a trial, because we know when everybody came in, we get the blood draws at certain times, we know a lot about our participants. And so there's information we get from a trial that we just can't get from just observing what happens as people are getting their shots out in the wild. So that's our thing. I mean, that's why we've got wonderful retention of our participants. I meet with them all the time. They really speaking as a person who runs a trial, our participants are fantastic. They like being in it, they like contributing. So it's been rewarding all the way around.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit or in depth, if you like, about these new COVID-19 vaccines and how they work in the body. So we've heard that the Pfizer and the Moderna COVID vaccines are made in a new way using RNA. So what exactly does that mean? What is this RNA that we're hearing about?
RNA is, we can't live without it. That's the messenger molecule that takes the DNA blueprints and turns it into the structures of proteins. So that's the intermediate. And so the vaccine is just a small piece of RNA that gets into that has the instruction set for that little piece of the spike protein. And that's the part of the virus that latches onto our cells. And that's how the virus gets into the cell. So the RNA only makes the instruction set for that one little piece. It doesn't make the whole virus. You can't get infected from the vaccine. It goes into an immune cell. somehow finds its way into an immune cell after you shoot it in somebody's arm. It makes that instruction for the protein, and then that's how we make antibodies. The RNA itself, it's degraded, it disappears. It doesn't change your cells or do anything weird like that. I mean, it's there very transiently. And that's the magic of the vaccine, is that we found a way to stabilize RNA just well enough so it can make an immune response, but it doesn't last. It doesn't go into your, it doesn't change anything about you or, change your cells. It just allows you to make an immune response. And, once it makes that piece of protein, it's like any other vaccine. I mean, all vaccines are trying to do that. You either get the protein itself. In this case, we just went one step back and your cell is making that protein. That's all. That's the only difference, really. But, other than that, downstream, it all causes the same effect. Your cells are trained to recognize the virus, and that's the basic immunology behind every vaccine. That's the whole point of them, is that you train your body to recognize the virus without actually getting infected with it. So
yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that anatomy lesson. That's great. So Mary Jo and Vernon, let's turn to you both and talk a little about with you all. Both of you are participants in the Moderna trial, and I wondered if you could each speak to what motivated you to do so. Mary Jo, let's begin with you.
Okay, thank you. I come from, my mother was a volunteer person, and she was also very interested in health. So I don't know how that has played into my life, but I've been a volunteer in many areas, and I'm very interested in health. So when this came, I've been in several studies already, but when this one came along, I thought, my goodness, I've got to be a part of that. One, for the curiosity of it, and because it was such a novel thing and nobody knew where it was going, it just seemed really the thing to do. And I was really excited to be in it. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I have to tell you, Dr. Kalams, you have a wonderful staff. They are wonderful.
they are the best. They really are. I tell them that every day too. I try to not let any, try to reward that. They've been with me for a long time too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a nurse, so I know the questions to ask staff people. and it's a great place to be. I really appreciate it.
Okay, that's great. And Vernon, what motivated you to participate in this trial?
Well, my granddog's just joined the conversation. I apologize for that.
Yeah, that is fine.
I'm excited to be in it, and thank you for asking me to be on the panel today. When I first joined All of Us, we talk about research and helping underrepresented people, and so we talk a lot about the importance of research, and I thought, if I'm going to talk about it and really have credibility, I can be in this research program, and people know that I'm a little closer to it. And Dr. Kalams, I agree about getting a lot of information for people that don't know. Since we started in that program, we fill out doesn't take long, but we fill out information every week. We get a call from your wonderful staff every month. And so it's like we're part of the family now. I've really enjoyed being a participant in the program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have to thank our participants all the time, and but just getting, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Getting the representative populations. Which populations are you trying to target? Especially for these phase 3 trials, right? I mean, if you're doing just safety, we usually start with younger participants, 18 to 49. I've aged out of my own phase 1 trials. I can't do them anymore. And I said, well, what's the point? But once you get into these larger trials, you have to represent the population you're trying to target. So we really made a conscious effort. I mean, it's like, well, as we get older, we're more vulnerable to just about everything. So we really needed to get real world participants across the age range. We really didn't turn anybody away. Apart from the underlying conditions, we took everybody. It didn't matter. High blood pressure. There were some conditions we couldn't, because you're looking at a safety thing. We really couldn't take somebody who had a major hospital event very recently. For instance, if you just had a heart attack, a week ago, and you wanted to be in our trial, that was difficult because we couldn't, if something happens after we give the vaccine, how do you know it's not a vaccine event or not? So that could make it confusing, but we had a very wide net for who we would accept into our trial, just so we could represent as many different parts of the population as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I love, Vernon, that you brought that up with the All of Us research program as well, because the success of the All of Us research program is dependent on the diversity, on getting all groups included in research. The more information, the better. So I love that you mentioned that. And for each of you, this is a question I'd love to ask, because our topic today is caring for community. And do you feel that participating in research is a way to do just that, to help take care of your community? And why or why not? And Mary Jo, we can start with you again.
Well, of course it is. It's really one of the things about where we were, people who were interested in the virus and in the outcome of all of it. We couldn't do anything except wear a mask and stay away from people. So at least this felt like something that I was doing to help and make a difference. And it really, of course, they have to have people. And just as Dr. Kalams just explained, all kinds. And I was a kind, and I was an older lady that would work. So I just, I think it was, I think it was just a tiny piece of help, but it was there. That's all I could do.
Okay. Vernon, what about you?
Well, I feel like we are contributing. That's not why I joined. I joined because I just thought it was the right thing to do, but it's just been a privilege to be a part of it, and to it's helped me educate my kids and grandkids and people like that. And people will ask questions that they normally might not ask. Again, that there's so much bad information out there that I think part of the community service is explaining some of those things that are really just not right, not good information. So being kind of on the front line and knowing what's going on, it makes it feel very good to me.
Yeah, that's great. And Dr. Kalams, what about you, looking at research through the lens of caring for community? What are your thoughts about that?
I love what I do. I mean, I work in the lab as well. And so I study immune responses to vaccine. I take people's cells and I see whether they respond to influenza and COVID and HIV, but I love the clinical trials aspect. That's just that direct connection with, and I kind of feel like, look, we could talk about altruism and all that, but I'm very proud of what we do. And I love the fact that I can explain to my mom what I do and she knows exactly what I'm doing and she understands it. And I just think if you can't explain to your mom or dad what you do and make them, then maybe you're not doing the right thing. So that's what I like about it. They really grasp why it's in, and I just have to tell a personal story. One of the reasons I'm doing vaccine research, my mom's a nurse, and she was a nurse and during her training was in the middle of the polio epidemic. So she saw people with polio. And so she took care of people in iron lungs and she saw paralyzed. And so when I was a young kid, she said, well, oh God, when the polio vaccine came out, I was a vaccine advocate from the time I knew what a vaccine was. So that's one of the reasons I like research, when I really think about it. And so I talk to her every week. And I remember weeks ago, she goes, when the booster's coming out? Because man, line me up. I'm going to, and she, as soon as she could, we went and got it. So I just love doing this kind of work. And I think, to our participants here, because you're in the community, what do you guys think when somebody says, oh, you know, you're being a guinea pig. You know, I've heard that so many times, and I don't use guinea pigs, but I mean, our trial is kind of I think anyway, it's the opposite of that, right? Because we give a lot of information, nothing is hidden. There's informed consent. I think our participants are the most knowledgeable people on the planet when it comes to vaccines. So I would think it's the opposite of feeling like you're being, do you feel like you're being experimented on? I mean, yes, you are in a sense. Really, because it's placebo, you know, people get scared, it's placebo controlled, no one knows what you're getting. So I get that part, but otherwise, did you feel like you were being experimented on? I'm just kind of curious of what your reaction is, because I'm too close to it, right? I mean, that's
absolutely not. In fact, I get offended when I hear that. I'm not a guinea pig. I'm not being treated like a guinea pig. No, no.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious myself, because that's what you hear from people that aren't in trials. I said, boy, I don't know. We try everything we can not to make people feel that way, and they shouldn't. And that just seems like something people say when they're maybe ignorant or just feel like triggering you, or, you know, just getting a rise out of you. So I'm just kind of curious, you know,
I think that's true.
how you guys feel about that.
Vernon, did you want to answer that? How do you feel?
I don't feel like a guinea pig at all. And again, it goes back to the staff, because when I'm there, they will answer, like the doctor said, they will answer any question you have. There are no secrets, and just we're making progress. The good news is we're seeing results, you know, from last year, and we're seeing people that are vaccinated that are not dying or going to the hospital near, and anything close to what's really going on in the whole world. So I feel great about it.
Yeah.
You know, well, you guys are going to get spoiled. You think every trial is like this. I mean, I have to admit, you know, we were hoping that it was going to be 60% effective. I mean, that was our goal. That's why we enrolled so many people. And then, well, everyone said, well, gosh, it's got to be at least as good as a flu vaccine. And, you know, we're lucky if we're getting, and don't get me wrong. I mean, 60% effective for flu vaccine, it still keeps tons of people out of the hospital, and it really turns severe illness into mild illness. So we would have been happy with that. But when you hear like 90, 95%, I mean, that was just complete craziness, right? And so we're just all still wondering, okay, that, and it, you know, it's held up, right? I mean, doesn't time, and I'll just give you sorry to go on about this, but when you talk about hospitalizations, even right now in our hospital, the last of our people in the hospital, 80% of them are unvaccinated. And that group of unvaccinated people, those holdouts, are generally younger, because even the 65, the 70 and older, they got the message. Most of those people are vaccinated. So it's younger people that say, oh, you know, I'm not going to be sick. Those are the ones that are in the hospital. And of our vaccinated people that are in the hospital, those are the ones that have underlying cancer. They just can't make as good an immune response from the vaccine. It's kind of exactly what you would expect. And that's where community comes into play, right? I mean, we vaccinate ourselves to protect ourselves, but don't you have a mom? Don't you have a grandfather? Don't you have a sister with cancer, or a friend's child? I mean, don't you want to protect them as well? So it's protect yourself and others. And I you know, that's what makes me that's what makes me so despondent when I see that attitude that, you know, it's all about me and my freedom and all that kind of nonsense that we have to battle all the time.
Yeah. Well, great conversation. I love that. And one, I'd like to end on this question here with Mary Jo and Vernon, and Dr. Kalams. Of course, you feel free to answer as well. But specifically because the All of Us research program and 50 Forward seeks to educate and provide outreach to older adults and help them become aware of the All of Us research program, as well as other clinical trials. So I wanted to ask you both, Mary Jo and Vernon, do you feel that it's important for older adults to participate in research? And why or why not do you feel that way?
We talk about diversity all the time. And so that's the bottom line. We need to be a part of all of research that's done anywhere, everywhere, especially females who have been left out, and especially older females who have been left out. I'm on the list to be called for other research things. And I've been ineligible several times just because I'm more than 65 years old.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, and that's fine. That's fair because some of them really do just apply to younger people. That's fair. But others, I would have made a good candidate.
Yeah.
Or participant.
You sure would have. I believe that. Vernon, what about you? Do you feel that it's important for older adults to participate in research, medical research?
Absolutely. That's why I'm here. And that's basically what I learned from all of us. The health initiative is I never realized that there are so many people, and I'm not criticizing the research people, they're doing what they do, but there's so many people that are underrepresented, and older people, people of color, things like that. And I had my personal experience with my wife who was sick and had a lot of problems, and the doctors were doing the best they could with the information they had. But if we can give them more information, we can go right back to making faster diagnosis, finding better cures, if we get everybody participating. So absolutely, I think I'm glad I'm participating, and I hope anytime an older person gets the opportunity that they will.
And I think that's a major effort of the NIH in general. I mean, I have what's called an R01 grant right now to study influenza vaccines in individuals 65 and older. Just to understand why, as we get older, our immune systems don't function. I mean, none of us can do what we did when we were 20. I mean, that's just going to happen. But our immune system behaves a little bit in the same way. So there's a lot of emphasis right now to try to understand what happens to our immune systems as we age. And every NIH application you put in has to also take into account sex as well. So male, female, there are differences. And so maybe harder to figure out what's happening on the immune side of things, but just trying to get a better handle, keep diversity in your research projects, whether you're studying cells in a test tube or whether you're studying people in a clinical trial.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. And now I think we're going to turn over questions to the audience. If we have anybody that is watching on Facebook, or if you're in the room with us, please feel free to type your questions into the chat or comment feature, and we will be happy to address those. And while we wait to see if there are any questions, Dr. Kalams, I'd love for you to go back to talking a little bit about the booster shots that we were talking about earlier, and specifically who should get those shots. Are there side effects happening? And if you know anywhere locally the best resource to get those shots, that would be great as well.
I think locally, whoever's giving, pharmacies that are giving shots right now, I think, people are getting booster shots way before they were recommended, but one way or another. Look, the protection still lasts a good long time. There is evidence that with time, some of the immunity against the virus does wane. It doesn't go to zero. I mean, if you were 90% effective within 2 weeks after your second shot, okay, so if it goes down to 80% over several months, you're still vastly more protected than somebody who's unvaccinated. And right now, while there is still even though the numbers fortunately are declining as we get more people vaccinated, and there's some component of some immunity from getting infected as well, the numbers are declining. But certainly people at risk should get that third shot. I mean, that's why I follow what the CDC is the one. The FDA will say, okay, boosters are safe. The CDC are the ones making these recommendations. Which groups should we target first? And so far, it's 65 and older, and certainly if you've got underlying conditions like certainly cancer, unfortunately, even some of our patients who are very immune compromised, even a third shot maybe tough to find immune responses, but it's still better than not getting vaccinated, no doubt about it. I have a feeling that the age range for boosters is going to keep coming down over time, and then we'll get into more, I don't know, maybe more granular discussions about who and when should we not start boosting people if the level of virus falls very low. But right now, I think anybody, I believe, is 65 and older and immune compromised conditions should definitely get a booster.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for the advice, Doctor. All right. Well, it does not look like we have any questions in either our chat or our comment features. So that is great. Sounds like we did a good job explaining everything for today. So I will turn it over to the guests to have any sort of closing remarks that you would like to make before we end the event today. And Mary Jo, let's just start with you again. Keep that pattern going. Anything you would like to add in closing?
Well, I'm puzzled, and this is probably not the appropriate time to say this, but I'm so puzzled at the response that people have had. Some people have had to the idea of vaccine. When we have to vaccinate our children to start to school, did we take away their freedom? When we have to wear seatbelts so we won't go through the windshield of our cars, did that take away our freedom? You know, on and on. I can't understand it. And I'm preaching to the choir here. So that's all. That's where I am. But I'm thankful. I am so thankful that we have people, and Dr. Kalams is just one of many enthusiastic, brilliant people who are putting their minds together on this. And I'm so grateful that we have that. I'm so grateful. It seems to me just amazingly like a miracle that we were able to get vaccines as fast as we did. It's just, I think we should all be just grateful that we've had the vaccines. No telling how many lives have been saved because of it.
Love that. All right, Vernon, any closing remarks you'd like to have?
Well, I just agree pretty much. I told Mary Jo I was just going to say me too for her comments, but I'm honored to be in the program, and I think I'm so happy that we have a place like Vanderbilt right here in our hometown that can do this research and we can participate in. It's been a blessing for me.
Yeah, I certainly wish I could understand. My wife is a cardiologist, and she has to convince her patients to get their shot, and they have heart problems. And there's a core of people that just won't do it. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And I think if you want freedom, that is our choice, right? I mean, you get your shot, you get yourself immune. Now you're free to do all sorts of stuff that you couldn't do before. I don't know what's more free than that. And yet it's a very stubborn group. I don't know exactly how to reach those folks. All we can do is we know that Facebook can have misinformation as well. And I know you're supposed to counter misinformation with good information and better information. It does feel like we're swimming upstream sometimes. And so I'm glad we're doing our part here. I hope that helps.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it does. And I think that will lead us to conclude our event today. I want to thank each of our guests for being with us and for helping all of us care for our community. I really appreciate each of you being here. And as people, I believe too, we are called to care for one another. And by participating in clinical trials and research programs, such as the All of Us research program, you're not only caring for yourself, but for your community as well. So you can make a difference. It's true what they say. So to learn more about participating in future trials with the Vanderbilt HIV vaccine team, please contact Jerissa Grenard at 615-343-8140. To learn more about the All of Us research program, please visit our website at joinallofus.org/50forward. And Dr. Kalams, Mary Jo, Vernon, thank you again for being with us today and sharing your wisdom and your expertise. Thanks to everyone watching, and have a great wet rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.